the city learned a new rule of silence. Fear was a cold stone in the belly of the market, a whisper in the hush of the royal court. It arrived with the body from the border, a man whose name was forgotten before it was ever known. He was a message, his still form a silent testament to the Accord's reach, a grim warning laid at the gates of the kingdom. No one spoke of it, but everyone understood. The air thickened with unspoken dread. In the Queen's chambers, the helpful man spoke in low, persuasive tones. His words were like honey laced with a subtle poison, sweet and compelling. He spoke of shared intelligence, of secret cooperation, as a shield against the growing shadow. He painted a picture of survival, one that required Queen Zainab to compromise, to trust a stranger with the kingdom's deepest secrets. He argued that to stand alone was to be consumed. With a heavy heart, she gave her consent, a decision that felt less like a choice and more like a surrender. Chitty Bear, ever the voice of caution, saw the truth behind the helpful man's smooth words. He came to the Queen, his face etched with worry. "This is not invasion," he warned, "but integration. They will not break down our walls. They will simply walk through our open gates. They will become us until there is nothing left of who we were." But his words were a ripple against the tide of the helpful man's influence. The Accord, emboldened by their new access, grew more confident, their presence more aggressive. A skirmish at a northern outpost was narrowly averted, but the cost was high. Names were quietly erased from the royal ledgers, soldiers and scouts who had seen too much, who knew too much. They became ghosts, their service and sacrifice swallowed by the new silent Accord. It was a chilling preview of the new order, a world where truth was a liability. That evening, as dusk settled over the palace, Aya Morjik knelt before the sacred hearth. She tried to light the ancestral fire, but the wood was damp, the embers refusing to catch. A cold draught snaked through the room. "The fire will not light," she said, her voice a low, trembling prophecy. "There is a second ledger, my queen, one written in ink we cannot see, on pages we cannot turn, a ledger of debts and betrayals. It is on that ledger that our fate is truly being written." And in that cold, fireless room, the chilling realization descended upon Queen Zainab like a shroud. The honeyed words, the promises of protection, the shared intelligence, it was all a lie. She had not bought safety for her people. She had sold them into a bondage far worse than any invasion. The mistake had been made. The gates were open, and the enemy was already inside. The gates of the city, once a symbol of welcome, were now a barrier of cold indifference. A sea of faces, etched with the weariness of a long and desperate journey, stared up at the unyielding wood and iron. They were refugees, souls cast adrift by the storms of conflict, seeking sanctuary. But their names were not on any list. The Accord, a creation meant to bring order, had become a cage. The foreign scouts, their eyes holding no recognition, no empathy, simply shook their heads. There was a process. There were rules. Caught between the rigid decree of the Accord and the dispassionate judgment of the scouts, the people were crushed. Their pleas faded into the uncaring air, their hopes turning to ash at the foot of the city they had dreamed of. From the high walls, Chitty Bear watched, his heart a stone in his chest. He saw the faces, heard the cries, and the full weight of their mistake crashed down upon him. He turned to Queen Zainab, his voice a strained whisper, heavy with the chilling realization. "We thought we were borrowing their eyes, Queen. We thought we were seeing the world more clearly through their systems and their order, but we did not borrow them. We gave away our own. Zainab remained silent. Her gaze was fixed on the city below, a city that now pulsed with an unnatural rhythm. The streets were too clean, the movements of the people too precise, the hum of activity too controlled. It was the sound of a machine, not a home. Every corner, every law, every interaction was governed by a logic that was not their own. A system designed for a different people, a different land, a different heart. It was a reasonable mistake, she had told herself. A necessary compromise for progress, for strength. But now that reasonable mistake was no longer a tool she controlled. It had a life of its own. It was correcting her. The cold, chilling order of the city was a reflection of the coldness seeping into her own soul, and she knew with a certainty that froze her to the bone that the price of this new world was a piece of their very being. The silence from the throne was her only answer as the cries outside the gates were finally swallowed by the city as perfect, terrible hum.